Welcome to this session on, this is on the living world, ecosystems, tropical rainforests and cold environments. And again, I've put that logo there just to remind you to play, pause and rewind anything that you need to go through again that you may miss. A quick reminder, you've got 3 exams. The first one is the physical geography exam, which includes natural hazards, ecosystems, coasts and rivers. The second paper goes through urban world, economic world, resource management and energy. And then finally, that final third paper is the issue evaluation, which changes every year, and the fieldwork elements, which are Barnsley and Mappleton. Now, though, I'm going to be going through the ecosystems, tropical rainforests, and cold environments. To start with ecosystems, we know that ecosystems have biotic features, such as insects, animals, plants, that's everything that's living. And they also have abiotic features, non-living things. And you might be asked questions to identify biotic and abiotic features in both a local ecosystem, a tropical rainforest, or a cold environment. We start off with food chains, and we know with food chains that we have producers such as green plants which create their energy from photosynthesis. It is then consumers which eat producers. In this instance, the consumer is a grasshopper, followed then by a secondary consumer. In this instance, the secondary consumer is a bird. Now, consumers, in this case the grasshopper, are always going to be herbivores, where they only eat plants. But a secondary consumer can be both a herbivore and an omnivore, which will eat grass and meat. You would then, in this instance, have a snake, which is a tertiary consumer, and the owl, which could be classed as a quaternary consumer. When the owl dies, decomposers will break its body down. This is called nutrient cycling. Those nutrients will re-enter the soil for then the nutrients to be used by the plant to grow through photosynthesis, and that is then the food chain complete. Your example of a small-scale UK ecosystem is Epping Forest in the north-east of London. And here, most of the trees there are deciduous, and they grow broad green leaves to maximise their photosynthesis during the summer months, because we know in the UK, in the winter, we have shorter days, so they maximise their photosynthesis and their growth in the summer months. They shed their leaves in the autumn to conserve energy during those cold winter periods. Moving on to tropical rainforests. Where are tropical rainforests? You can see there the equator is drawn on that map, and tropical rainforests are located on and around the equator. Remember, the equator is hot and wet, and that is because due to the high insolation, that air there, low pressure, is rising. It is creating those clouds here, which is why it's so rainy at the equator. Just as a reminder, there where I'm drawing now, that is about 30 degrees north where Egypt is. And we know all along this dotted line here, 30 degrees north, it is very, very dry indeed, specifically in the Sahara Desert. So it is hot and wet at the equator, but dry and hot 30 degrees north. Rainforests have various different layers on them. We've got the forest floor, understory, canopy and emergent layer. But just beneath that, you've got the thin soils. And because of the such dense vegetation, all of these trees that exist, the soils are actually quite lacking nutrients and are quite thin, which means on the forest floor, we have these things called buttress roots. You can see the buttress roots there. Buttress roots are very, very tall and very, very wide to support the 30 to 40 metre trees above them, but also to give them that opportunity for stability due to the thin soils below. On the understory layer, you have epiphytes. Due to the competition of all of the vegetation there, epiphytes are trees and plants that grow around other trees in order to compete for sunlight. In the canopy layer, you have drip-tip leaves. Drip-tip leaves that look as so that the water runs off them and towards the forest floor, but then also so that algae doesn't grow on the leaf as so, because if algae did grow on the leaf, what that would mean is that they wouldn't be able to photosynthesize. And finally, then the emergent layer. The emergent layer extends 30 to 40 meters tall, competing for that sunlight above. Looking at animals in the rainforest, we're looking at two specific things: behavioral adaptations and physical adaptations. Behavioral adaptations is what it says on the tin. It is how the animal behaves. In this instance, you have a sloth. A sloth moves very, very slowly in order to go undetected in a rainforest so that predators do not attract it. A physical adaptation here of the harpy eagle is that the wingspan is quite short, meaning it can fly through the trees without getting caught. Your example of a tropical rainforest is Malaysia. Now, there's lots of questions that you might be asked to do with deforestation, its causes, effects, and management of it. So that's what I'm going to go through now. And the causes of deforestation are here: logging, chopping down trees for furniture; farming, commercial, such as palm oil. What they're actually doing, if you look at this picture here, is they are chopping down these trees only to then plant other trees, palm oil trees. Palm oil, which then grow little pods that look like grapes that can be squeezed, and palm oil then can be used to create foods and shampoos, etc. Then also, due to population pressure, they need to deforest areas so that they can build new homes. The effects of deforestation are as follows. Because there's going to be fewer trees there, the soil may blow away, leading to desertification. Due to a lack of trees, water supplies may be contaminated. Trees are a natural filter of harmful substances. And without those trees then, the water will be dirtier, and then local Aborigine groups will drink that dirty water, then they will become infected and populations may die out. We know that in tropical rainforests, lots of plants exist there for medicinal purposes, cancer-fighting treatments. Without the rainforest there, we won't have that capability. And finally, then increase in CO2. Previously, if you go to the hazards video that I put together, if there's more CO2, that is only going to increase the enhanced greenhouse effect. It is going to reduce the positive albedo effect and intensify global warming. And also loss of biodiversity. We know that animals such as the orangutan, an umbrella species, like to roam in these trees. And if these trees aren't there, the orangutan cannot live there. Therefore, the orangutan cannot knock down other fruits, so the animals below who rely on the orangutan knocking down the fruits will also become extinct and species will die. However, there are positive effects of deforestation. The fact that it is creating jobs, jobs for miners, jobs for people chopping down the trees, jobs for people who are building the new homes in place. That is a positive effect. As a result of that, the knock-on is this income. Countries such as Malaysia will benefit positively from the income gained from deforestation. How can we manage it? Selective logging, only choosing the largest trees to chop down, allowing the smaller trees to grow. International hardwood agreements, so that certain trees are not accepted in some parts of the world because it is illegal to chop them down. And then finally, ecotourism. People like me go into a rainforest, learning about it, learning how they live, giving money to the local people, and then coming back and educating others on how to be sustainable with the rainforest. Moving on to our cold environment, Svalbard. The characteristics of Svalbard are the temperatures are very, very low, the soil is normally always frozen, and the polar bears are adapted. They have white fur to camouflage in the white snow, therefore going undetected by predators. And then also plants are adapted. Plants are adapted with the bearberry plant. The bearberry plant is red to attract other animals to go and eat it in the white snow, therefore dispersing its seeds for excretion. Why on earth would you want to live in Svalbard? The opportunities are mineral extraction, fishing, because there's over 150 species of fish in the surrounding waters. How fantastic. And tourism. People would like to give tour guides there people go on tours there to earn money. People will be a tour guide to earn money in Svalbard because it's an unusual environment for people to visit. What are the challenges though? The challenge is that it's extremely cold. It can be up to minus 30 degrees Celsius. And that makes construction quite difficult because if the ground's frozen, it's going to be very difficult to build things like hotels for the tourists. That limits tourism. The infrastructure is also difficult. Yes, people live there, but you can't have pipes underneath the ground, otherwise they would freeze, therefore limiting, again, tourism and fishing. And finally, that accessibility. If the sea is frozen, we won't be able to access via boats, making fishing difficult in the winter months and also making tourism difficult, meaning that tourists can only arrive by plane. What are the threats to cold environments? Global warming. The ice is melting at a rapid rate. That is increasing the amount of permafrost that's melting. As a result, there is more methane going into the atmosphere, intensifying global warming. Also, habitats such as the polar bear having fewer areas to roam is being destroyed, and the polar bear will go extinct. How can we manage it? Technology, you can see here, there is the Trans-Alaskan Pipeline, which has been raised. It is raised on stilts, so animals can migrate still underneath. It is on suspension points, so during an earthquake, it rocks and doesn't burst. And then finally, it also has different pumping stations all the way along in order to keep that oil flowing. International agreements are also a way that we can manage cold environments by simply saying, do not fish in certain areas, and conservation groups too, such as WWF, going out to take care of any animals that are there and educating people on how to be sustainable.